Some business news. Nike is releasing a shoe that's designed to help toddlers learn how to walk. Right now, Biden is like, "Do you make me in 10 and a half?"
Yes. Jimmy Fallon, that's their Biden joke of the night. They try to have one Biden joke every night. Usually not very good, but they are nudging him toward the exits because they know that he's a terrible, horrible candidate. They don't care that he's a terrible, horrible president. They just want to hang on to power next year. And I did mention, if you're in the Commonwealth of Virginia, to get out and vote. Got to get out and vote. You know, the gender of your children on the line. Schools teaching, you think in Virginia they're teaching a pro-jihad curriculum, or, college campuses at a lot of colleges. Everywhere you look, it's pro-jihad. Way too pro-jihad. Yeah, the news media is very upset with the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, because he's not wealthy enough. They expect members of Congress to be wealthy and, of course, to have attended someplace like Harvard, where you learn casual anti-Semitism the old school way. But I want to get to that because it is quite ridiculous, the news media attacking the new Speaker of the House. The headline from the radical left-wing extremists at the Daily Beast. The Daily Beast, the headline is, "Does new Speaker of the House Mike Johnson have a bank account?" They're attacking him because he's not wealthy enough, and they're very upset by this. They expect Speaker of the House and members of Congress to, be engaged in insider trading and cheating and stealing and looting and plundering the Treasury and Wall Street, and to have their political pals lining their pockets like Joe Biden. Got an update on the Joe Biden stuff, too. Does the new Speaker of the House even have a bank account? Isn't that great? They're upset because he's not wealthy enough. He apparently really isn't. He doesn't own stocks. He's got about $500 in a bank account. This is what they say. How did they find out how much money he's got in his bank account? Can they check Joe Biden's bank account? They can check, because this is, honestly, our news media. What would our news media do if we had one? Just extraordinary stuff. But he is not wealthy enough for the news media. They want him to have lots of cash in the bank, like Nancy Pelosi, for example. By the way, she has been subpoenaed. She's received subpoenas. She's got to hand over information documents having to do with the crazy hammer-wielding San Francisco lunatic that hit her husband in the head in their multi-million-dollar mansion. Just extraordinary. Yeah, but the news media very, very upset that the Speaker of the House doesn't have enough money. Why doesn't he have enough money? Well, maybe he's not a crook. Had you ever thought of that? How much money is Nancy Pelosi worth? Oh, hundreds of millions. She was the Speaker of the House. Her husband, very well-to-do. They all do. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, just see him run over that little Chinese kid on the basketball court and then grope him and roll around. Oh, we're having fun. Oh, gosh, aren't we having fun? No, the kid was not having fun. He was terrified. You're a creep. Leave him alone. Why'd you run over the little kid? What a creep. But, the news media very upset that the Speaker of the House isn't wealthy. Why would they be upset about that? I don't understand why they would be upset. It's because they expect everybody to be cashing in, right? That's your Democrat Party. They are very, very strange people. Mike Johnson doesn't have any retirement savings. He doesn't own a single stock. He doesn't have any assets at all. He has less than $5,000 in his bank account. Maybe he had to disclose this. He's got a $250,000 to $500,000 mortgage. Why don't you know exactly what his mortgage is? A home equity loan and a personal loan. So what's his retirement plan? Asks a ridiculous person named Matt Fuller, who is the Washington bureau chief for the radical left-wing Daily Beast. And they're very, very upset about this. I don't know why they're upset, but I get that most Americans are in a similar boat. I'm not a rich man, says Matt Fuller. But when the speaker has zero savings at 51, it's an indication that his financial literacy is, let's just say, that's how you offset $14 billion in Israeli funding and end up costing the government $90 billion. Now, these people are so mental. This Matt Fuller is a mental dwarf. Can you say dwarf when you're talking about mental state? I think you can. I think you can. Maybe you should say mental midget. Can you say because you're just talking about it's like a little sports car from England in the 1960s, the MG Midget. Can you still own an MG Midget, or is that out of bounds? So this guy, Matt Fuller, he's out. And here's the big lie. One of the big lies that the Democrats are telling at the moment is that the Republicans, you see, want to have $14.3 billion in aid go to Israel because the troglodytes are attacking them and trying to murder all of them. So $14.3 billion. But the new Speaker of the House, who's not a wealthy man, and that's a bad thing, the new Speaker of the House said, well, here's what we're going to do. Kind of like offsetting government money. It's fungible. We're going to take $14.3 billion that the Democrats had earmarked for the Internal Revenue Service to add 80,000 employees so they can audit middle-class Americans, and then they lie to us and say, oh, no, it's only people that make over $400,000. That means they'll get like one auditor per person. It's completely ridiculous. They're lying to us again. So the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he wants to take $14.3 million out of this pie over here, out of this bucket over here. The money had been designated to hire more IRS employees to harass Americans and threaten and menace Americans, right? And take that $14.3 billion and move it over here to give it to Israel. Now, the Democrats came back and they said, oh, sure, you're going to take away these new IRS employees? Well, these new IRS employees were going to generate $90 billion in revenue for the government by investigating and fining people. And that aren't we really, the people are getting away with $90 billion in tax fraud because we don't have enough IRS employees? For how many years has this been going on? You frauds. These people are such criminals. They're such frauds. They're such liars. What else are they, Michael? They're liars and frauds and criminals. And a lot of them are transgender, I think. So this is what this fraud, liar, criminal, Matt Fuller is saying in defense of the fraud, liar, criminals, the Democrats on Capitol Hill. And they're attacking him for not being wealthy enough. But if you take $14 billion from the IRS, that'll cost the IRS and the American taxpayer $90 billion. This is the lie that they're peddling now. And they're demanding that if we're going to have a bill and the Republicans in the House, the Speaker of the House, want to have a standalone bill. We've got audio on this, don't we? The Speaker of the House was on the television last night. This is important stuff. Let's go to, because the lie is so big. And they're telling us, no, we need a $105 billion bill because there will be $61 billion in there for arming Ukraine, but nobody to watch where the money's actually going. And we were just told, Time Magazine, Simon Schuster, the reporter, not the publishing house, at Time Magazine, reported that in conversations with senior staff members to Volodymyr Zelensky, he was told that the government figures in Ukraine are stealing like there's no tomorrow. That's our money. By the way, they're not winning the war against Russia. So another $61 billion Joe Biden wants for Ukraine. Ukraine gave Joe Biden millions of dollars. They gave Hunter Biden millions of dollars. They gave Devin Archer, who's just Hunter Biden's buddy, millions of dollars. And then Ukraine got tens of billions, more than $100 billion from us. And here's the push for another $61 billion to arm Ukraine. But you can't have a standalone vote on that, because then it would have to be debated in the light of day in the House of Representatives, which controls the purse strings for the U.S. government. And that's what the new Republican Speaker of the House, who's not a wealthy man, is attempting to do. And he wants to have a standalone bill to debate the $61 billion for Ukraine and debate who's going to monitor where that money goes. And the Democrats pound the table and scream at you, and they want to make sure that nobody's watching where that money goes, which might suggest that the money is going to be funneled back to Democrats in the United States who are very corrupt people. But the $14.3 billion for military and security assistance for Israel, trying to make that a standalone bill, right? Then they say, oh no, there's $14 billion in there for U.S. border security. You're voting against border security. The Republicans are against border security. This is the lie. This is how the lie works. And the news media lies along with them, because they lie and they cheat on their spouses and they cheat on their taxes and they cheat on their expense reports. So the ridiculousness of it all. Now, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, he was on with Sean Hannity last night. And just amazing stuff. So Mike Johnson said, listen, the Democrats want to lump everything together and make it an omnibus bill, which is not even a real word. And because they'll lump it together. And if you don't vote for it all, without any questions, then they'll accuse you of voting against border security, because they lump in border security with aid to Ukraine, which nobody's keeping tabs on, and aid to Israel. So, you're against aid to Israel. You're the real anti-Semite here. Well, they're all being anti-Semites all across the country. Here's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, last night on Sean Hannity.
With our appropriations bills for Ukraine funding, for example, we're going to marry that with border security. Those two things are going to be handled together.
Why?
Because we believe it's a top priority. We can't be expected to take care of other countries and other conflicts if we can't seal our own border.
See, they want to throw in the actual border security money with the Ukraine bill, because they know that the Democrats will all vote for the Ukraine money, because the Democrat Party have had their fingers in the Ukraine pie for years and years and years. And the Biden family is not alone in this, but they've enriched themselves by way of Ukraine, and then tens of billions funneled to Ukraine. Thanks, Joe Biden. All right? But he wants to link the border security money with the Ukraine money. The problem there is that the Democrats will do everything they can to make sure that the money just goes for processing illegal aliens coming into the United States and not actually for securing our border. Now, Chip Roy, conservative Republican, was also on with Sean Hannity last night and asked about these, the Democrats won the one giant bill.
We're all here united, standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel. We're ready to send over a sole legislation that would focus on Israel that is paid for. Unfortunately, I think our Democrat colleagues are more interested in siding with the IRS and expanding it to go after the American people than they are to side with Israel.
And then they lie that it means $90 billion. Really? Then why, if we're losing that much every year, then why have we been so understaffed at the IRS all these years? The IRS was free enough to target every group with Tea Party or with Patriot in it to sideline them when Barack Obama was running for re-election. Now, AOC, of course, she is a mental midget. Or is it dwarf? Or is it little person? She's a mental little person. And she just wants the Jews to stop defending themselves so Hamas can get back to killing them.
I am a co-sponsor of the ceasefire resolution. We're seeing refugee camps bombed. We're seeing thousands of children who have died. This is not war. This is chaos. And we have a responsibility to uphold our standards and commitment to human rights. I believe bombing a refugee camp is a human rights violation. I believe it's a war crime.
She's accusing Israel of war crimes because the Hamas leadership's members take up residence in what they call refugee camps that have been sitting in the same place for about 75 years now, without budging. It's chaos. Well, war is chaos. Thousands of innocent civilians. What about the children? And then full funding for Planned Parenthood. And the refugee camps. Democrats. Mental MG midget. Hey, do you have smelly odors in your home or your office that you'd really like to get rid of? Well, now you can get rid of any stinky odor with the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. The Thunderstorm gets rid of strong odors from cooking and cigarette smoke and litter boxes and even leftists. The Thunderstorm starts working in a matter of seconds to clear any room of any odor. And there are no expensive filters to buy and replace on a schedule over and over again. Hundreds of thousands of Thunderstorms have been sold. You can check out all the 5-star reviews, thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews online. It works like a champ. And this week, I've got a great deal for you. You can get 3 Thunderstorms and save $200. 3 Thunderstorms for a whole home protection, save $200. Eden Pure Thunderstorm for a whole home protection. 3 units for under $200. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and enter the discount code Chris. That's me, CHRIS. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Chris, and because you know me, shipping is free. And that's good. Yeah, and what about the new $40,000 check for Joe Biden? This is all fine at the Washington Post. The most corrupt institution in America, the American news media. But I got some truth coming up for you. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Yeah, Congressman Matt Gaetz, who's a fun guy and therefore hated. You know, isn't it ironic that you've got a Speaker of the House that isn't rich, and that's a problem with the news media? And the Democrats are shocked. They're aghast. They're like, well, what? He doesn't need trade on power? And what are the Democrats? They're saying hey, come on. He's the Speaker of the House. He's been a member of Congress for 3 terms. He should be trading on that, and he should be rich by now. Matt Gaetz, and an ex-post. The Daily Beast is furious that Speaker Johnson isn't rich, corrupt, or rich from being corrupt. He doesn't have shady business deals, wink, wink. He doesn't trade stocks as a congressman. And the radical left-wing extremist Roger Solenberger at the Daily Beast said, in response to Matt Gaetz, fact check, my report does not say Mike Johnson is not corrupt. Sure, that makes sense. In fact, it quotes an expert, he's got an expert, suggesting that his finances may make him a target for corruption, like every other member of Congress. Now, the Washington Post pretends to be a newspaper, but it's not. And they have a fake fact checker there who's a Democrat Party shill. He is named Glenn Kessler. And he's an award-winning journalist and fact-checker, and he has a very tenuous relationship with the truth and reality. Biden's dismissal of the reported Palestinian death toll. That's right, the Washington Post has fact-checked. See, Joe Biden said that he doesn't necessarily trust the death toll numbers being provided to the world by Hamas, which is a radical Islamic terrorist organization, and they have like a health ministry or something like that. I don't think they contribute much to health, but never mind that, because Washington Post fact checker hammers Biden for doubting Gaza death toll is the headline from the radical left-wingers at Mediaite. They like to attack me, Mediaite, which is fine. Nobody reads them. I could care less. That's fine. But the death toll is the Washington Post, Glenn Kessler, is jumping in to defend Hamas. Hamas. See, Joe Biden said, I have no notion that the Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging war. I have no confidence, Joe Biden said, in the number that the Palestinians are using. Now, here comes Glenn Kessler. The Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th killed more than 1,400 civilians and soldiers, according to a count by the Israeli Prime Minister's office. Israel's response, a bombing campaign and now a major ground assault, had killed 8,309 as of Sunday, according to a count by the Gaza Health Ministry, by a radical Islamic terrorist organization that beheads babies and rapes women and kills them, which is controlled by Hamas, a militant group designated a terrorist organization by the U.S. State Department and everybody else in the world. In any war, statistics on deaths are fuzzy and subject to change. Almost a month after Hamas's attack, the precise number of dead from it is unclear. No, it's not. As 200 bodies remain unidentified. Are they dead? They're bodies. As of Tuesday, Israel's Haaretz newspaper had published the names of 1,009 verified dead, 657 civilians. Listen to this. Yeah, but you can trust Israel, Glenn. Don't worry about it. But the amazing part of this is the fact check goes on to say, oh no, Hamas is really reliable. And we should take Hamas's numbers at face value. For example, when they said that the hospital was bombed by Israel, and then the Washington Post reported the hospital was bombed by Israel, and 500 people were killed, right? But the hospital wasn't bombed by Israel. It was bombed by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a missile attack intended to kill Jewish civilians that crashed on their own hospital run by Baptists, that the Al-Ahli hospital said to have killed nearly 500 people. No, they said 500, not nearly 500. But here's Glenn Kessler running to the aid of Hamas, saying, no, we can really depend on Hamas and their numbers. We don't care that they're spreading jihad propaganda. And the Mediaite people jumping in, Washington Post fact checker hammers Biden for doubting Gaza death toll. They called it remarkably uninformed. That's Glenn Kessler in the Washington Post. Excessive skepticism, because Joe Biden should just take Hamas's word for whatever it is that Hamas tells you.
I'm sure innocents have been killed, but I have no confidence in the number that the Palestinians are using.
Now, Newsbusters, the great people, the great Brent Bozell and the wonderful people at Newsbusters put together a little montage of the Democrat media, the Jake Tappers and all the Democrat operatives posing as journalists. And they love, here's the media.
The health ministry in Gaza, run by Hamas, says more than 7,000 Palestinians have been killed.
NBC News now learning between 200 and 300 people were killed in a bombing targeting a hospital. That's according to a spokesperson for the Palestinian Health Ministry.
Palestinian health authorities say the hospital was struck by an Israeli attack.
Hamas is saying that this was the Israeli Defense Force.
That is what many people here believe.
What the Palestinian government is calling a war crime.
A direct hit from an Israeli airstrike.
This hit on the hospital.
Directly hit by an Israeli strike.
The hospital strike.
There is a sort of both sides pointing the finger at one another.
This kind of death toll is not what you normally associate with Palestinian rockets.
Hamas does not have the kind of munitions that could do this kind of damage.
Hamas officials say the death toll in the Gaza Strip is now over 6,000.
Hamas says Israeli airstrikes have killed more than 7,000 Palestinians.
Media Research Center, the great Brent Bozell and his wonderful people at MRC, and Newsbusters, just doing the work of the Lord for decades now, and they have a great annual black tie dinner, a gala, and I've been privileged to attend and participate for years in the Media Research Center's annual gala, the Black Tie Gala here in Washington, D.C. Great stuff by them. The news media just carrying water for, like, Hamas is Al-Qaeda, is ISIS, they're all the same beast, and the news media and Glenn Kessler at the Washington Post, oh no, we should take their word for whatever it is they tell us. And if it turns out to be wrong later, we'll just say, well, we attributed it to them, according to the Hamas health ministry. Sure, right. And the Washington Post, very proud of this, their fact checker. The president said he had no confidence in the figures issued by Hamas-run health ministry, but it has a good track record on reporting death tolls. Well, that is their area, after all. It is their specialty. Just extraordinary stuff. And the radical left-wingers at The Intercept, Biden conspiracy theory about Gaza casualty numbers unravels upon inspection. And they're referring to the Washington Post. That's the inspection. Oh, no, you can believe the terrorist organization, Hamas, because they have a health ministry. They're good with body counts. Your Democrat Party. They're part of the jihad, aren't they? And yesterday they announced their new program to combat Islamophobia in the United States of America, because that's the big problem. Yes, sir. And here's Joe Biden again, the Times of Israel. Biden indicated to Netanyahu he believes his days in office are numbered. That's right. He's talking to Netanyahu, and they're putting it out there, the Biden White House, that he's told Netanyahu, your days are numbered. They are not on our side. Honestly, they're so not on our side that they've got the headline, ABC Fake News. Biden calls for pause in Israel-Gaza conflict to get hostages out. Joe Biden called them prisoners and not hostages. He only told the transgender rabbi, Jessica Rabbi, that he called for a pause, but ABC News ignores the fact that Netanyahu said yesterday that there is no pause. Maybe he said it night before last. Just amazing. Just amazing. You're a Democrat Party. Oh, let's get to the corrupt Biden family now. Soundbite number one, Congressman James Comer. And I hope to get to the effort to censure Rashida Tlaib for her anti-Semitism. And a lot of Republicans didn't vote for the censure for a variety of reasons, one of which is the language that was used in the censure itself, calling it an insurrection, and people thought it was kind of too tongue-in-cheek and unserious, so a lot of Republicans didn't vote for it. But let's get to James Comer, because we've got more money coming from the corruptniks around the world going to the Biden family, and now we've got a new check for $40,000 going to Joe Biden, and the Republicans are paying attention to it. The Democrats could care less, and that means the media could care less, because that's their deal. Congressman Chairman James Comer last night on the Sean Hannity program talking about the latest $40,000 check.
Most alarming about this $40,000 check, it traces directly back to China. It goes all the way back to that WhatsApp message that the Ways and Means Committee. The WhatsApp message is.
The WhatsApp message. Now, the WhatsApp message, you may recall, is the one where Joe Biden was sitting next to his son, Hunter Biden, and Hunter Biden was communicating with the Chinese people that are funneling money to the Biden family. And Joe was sitting next to Hunter Biden when he demanded payment from Chinese businessman. IRS whistleblower claims president's son used his father's name to threaten associate in damning WhatsApp message. And again, this is the one where Hunter Biden is saying, hey, I'm sitting here next to my father, and we'd like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. That's him putting the arm on the Chinese businessman to say, you need to start sending cash my way. And then the cash started heading his way. And that's okay. So James Comer is actually getting to the bottom of this, and it takes forever, but he is getting to the bottom of it. And, most alarming, he says, this $40,000 check, China and this WhatsApp message where Hunter Biden is threatening the Chinese, saying, I'm sitting next to my father, right? Sitting here with my father, we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Congressman Comer, and he's talking to Sean Hannity.
5 days later, they wired $5 million.
$5 million. So, but you found 40,000 of that $5 million went to Joe directly?
Yeah. From the $5 million, then Hunter got a fee of $400,000. And then it was laundered through 3 different Biden bank accounts to Joe Biden. Now, $40,000 is 10% of $400,000. This is the CEFC deal.
Whoa. 10% for the big guy?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's 10%.
10% for the big guy, as was noted by the Biden family business associate and CEO of one of the many Biden corporations, who pointed out in the emails and from Hunter Biden's laptop from hell that Joe Biden is big guy and big guy gets 10%. Yeah, that was Tony Bobulinski, that explained that 10% was set aside for Joe Biden. And here is Congressman Comer with the receipts, as they say. $400,000 cut for Hunter Biden, and then the $40,000 check goes to Joe Biden from the Chinese business interests. Then Congressman Jim Jordan, also on last night with Hannity, talking about Hunter Biden and his no-show job in Ukraine, working in a business he had never worked in a country he'd never been to, in a language that he doesn't speak.
Hunter Biden gets put on the board of Burisma, fact number 1. Fact number 2, he's not qualified to be on the board of Burisma. Fact number 3, the head of Burisma ask Hunter Biden, can you help us relieve the pressure we are under from the Ukrainian prosecutor? Fact number 4, Joe Biden does just that after Hunter Biden asked him to. He goes to Ukraine and gets the prosecutor fired.
Isn't that amazing? And then, hey, Ukraine finds itself in some trouble because Putin is not afraid of the United States while Joe Biden is in the White House. So he invades, which didn't happen while President Trump was in the White House. And then, boy, do they get their money back in spades. Can you say in spades? Just amazing.
And then it has 10% for the big guy held by H. I 1,000% sit here and know that the big guy is referencing Joe Biden. That's crystal clear to me.
Crystal clear. Tony Bobulinski, CEO, one of the Biden family corporations. What business are they in? Do they build skyscrapers? Do they extract oil from the ground? Do they make purses and shoes? What business are they in? The answer is they're in no business at all except shaking down foreign leaders, foreign businesses, from China to Ukraine to Russia to which stand? I always forget which stand it is. And Romania. Man, oh man. And you know, the problem in the House of Representatives is that the Speaker of the House isn't rich enough. That's what we got going on here. Also, did you see all the Venezuelan crime wave in New York City? Red light district erupts in New York City with influx of Venezuelan prostitutes. You know, it was reported a month ago that Nicolas Maduro, the dictator in Venezuela, was emptying out his prisons there and sending all the criminals to the U.S. border, just the way Fidel Castro did during the Mariel boat lift. And you see the Venezuelan migrants in Chicago nabbed again, stealing thousands and thousands from the Macy's store, illegal aliens, and the Democrats want to give them a gift basket. I guess this is their gift basket. They're arrested again, from the same Macy's store that they had already ripped off and been caught for. But we don't deport criminals. We put them in school with your kids.
You're a prostitute.
A Republican congressman by the name of Pat Fallon from the great state of Texas was on the Fox Business Channel last night, and he used a familiar turn of phrase. It's familiar because I coined it myself.
If you espouse far left-wing viewpoints or rhetoric or hate, then you're tolerated within the federal government under Joe Biden. But if you were to dare say, if you were a white person to say anything about a minority, you'd be fired immediately. Now, all of those people should be fired immediately. If you're espousing that kind of hate, whether, I don't care what you look like or who you're directing it toward, we should have one standard. But unfortunately, if the liberals didn't have double standards, Liz, they would have no standards at all.
If they didn't have double standards, the liberals, they'd have no standards at all. You got his almost perfect recitation. And we have the Chris Plant store T-shirts and coffee mugs. Were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all. And Congressman Pat Fallon using a great turn of phrase there. It should be used frequently. Great stuff. Now, we didn't get to Elwood, and I wanted to get to Elwood, and I apologize to Elwood calling from Chicago, Illinois. I assume it was Elwood Blues calling from Chicago, Illinois. He called in to say, listening on the great WLS, he called in to say, is Joe Biden going to call for a ceasefire in Chicago, in Baltimore, in Washington, D.C.? You know, more than 10,000 African Americans died of murder last year in the United States of America. That is a very large number, but Joe Biden hasn't called for a ceasefire. And Elwood is right. Joe Biden should call for a ceasefire in the United States. I talk about it more than the entire Democrat Party does because they don't care about human life. I had hoped to spend some time today, but I'm running out the clock on myself, on a National Panhandler radio story. These American birds and dozens more will be renamed to remove human monikers. You see, they say that they've had their renaming birds. They've got to rename a lot of birds because it's racist. That's what they say. They say they've got to rename Anna's hummingbird and Gamble's quail and Lewis's woodpecker. Lewis's woodpecker? Bewick's wren, Bullock's oriole, and they've had to rename one because it was insensitive to Native Americans. And then they're going to have to rename birds because of slavery. They're going to rename about 80 birds because Democrats.